You know, we've been involved immensely here in this immigration debate at the federal level. What's going on, I don't know of a more contentious issue, and we all know that. But this morning, we're honored to have with us a member of the American Farm Bureau staff who is critical to this debate. We have with us today the Director of Congressional Relations that deals with labor and immigration. Her name is Kristi Boswell. Kristi's position means that she concentrates much of her time and her work within the issue of farm labor. Kristi Boswell is a farm girl. She grew up on a farm in southeastern Nebraska where her family, as you might would imagine, raised corn and soybeans. She received her undergraduate degree in ag economics from the University of Nebraska. She went on to earn a law degree from the University of Nebraska's College of Law. Prior to joining the staff of the American Farm Bureau, Kristi practiced corporate defense litigation, including labor and employment in her home state of Nebraska. Ladies and gentlemen, I've worked with Kristi Boswell. I can tell you, having worked with her, and many of our staff know that, particularly Linda Andrews and Peter Daniel, she was baptized by fire. She's only been on the staff of the American Farm Bureau a little over a year. As soon as she came to the staff of the American Farm Bureau, she was thrust into this very controversial immigration reform debate. She has done a stellar job for you and for the farmers and ranchers across this great nation. She's represented you, she's represented our nation's farmers in this debate. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kristi Boswell. Kristi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wooten, for that kind introduction. I'm very honored to be here in North Carolina. I've only been here one other time, and it was within the first month of my experience at American Farm Bureau to work on labor issues. One of my favorite things to do about this job, which I will get to do this afternoon with Linda, is see the agriculture all across the country. I did grow up on a corn and soybean farm, a little different agriculture than what you see in North Carolina, and I'm excited to do those tours today as well and all across the country. Immigration reform is as hot of a topic right now in DC as there is. For us, this is a labor issue. This is about making sure we have a labor force for next year's crops, for this year's crops. However, we get brought into this broad immigration debate. It's emotional. It's a hard issue on both sides of the aisle. There are very differing views on how to approach it, on the best way to approach it, the process that it's going to take, and of course the politics that align with that. We're in it, and we have to be to make sure we have access to a legal and stable workforce. The Senate passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill in June 27th. That is the most movement and progress we have seen on immigration reform in a decade. It's exciting. It was not a perfect bill, but it was a very good bill, especially from the agricultural perspective. But it was a comprehensive bill. It was over 1,000 pages long. It addressed everything from border security to e-verification to agricultural labor and guest worker programs to high-skilled individuals. It really ran the gamut. And the debate was thorough. There was hundreds and hundreds of amendments considered and debated, very public, which I think stands great to testament of how important this issue is and the effort truly that the Senate put forward. It was bipartisan and it accomplished passage of S-744. A very big step. However, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and we now transition to the House of Representatives. There's an appetite there. Everyone recognizes the immigration system is broken. From the agriculture's perspective, we have sympathies. People understand that we rely on an undocumented labor force that's about 70 to 75% of our total labor force. They understand on both sides of the aisle that the H-2A program is broken. Those that use it out of necessity. They make it work for them. North Carolina knows that better than anyone. But over the past 4 years, the Department of Labor has terrorized that program and has made a very difficult and expensive program almost impossible to use. We need reform there. So those sympathies aid us when we're talking to our House members. The problem that we're facing in the House and where you guys can really come into play is making sure politics does not get in the way of policy reform. The system is broken. Everyone wants to do something, but how do you do it? What's the best way? The Senate chose that comprehensive approach, one big bill. If anything, the House is united around, they will not be taking up that Senate bill. And that's okay. Absolutely, we support the House undertaking its own process, thoroughly debating and vetting this issue for themselves, and making sure that their members are comfortable with the process that unfolds. And that really comes straight from leadership and Speaker Boehner and how he will get the conference around it and try to move something. Right now, there are a couple different approaches. One is seemingly taking a more, seems like it will be the route. There's a piece-by-piece approach, meaning there's individual immigration bills, and each will be debated, each will be voted on, and then hopefully come together in a package to face the Senate bill in a conference committee. Those bills right now, there's 5 that have been introduced, have debated in committee, marked up, and passed out of committees. Those include a border security bill, an internal enforcement bill, an e-verification bill, an agricultural guest worker bill, and a high-skilled bill. There are 3 more bills expected to be introduced and marked up. There's one that deals with low-skilled non-agricultural workers, so hospitality industry, construction industry. There's one that is relating to the kids, also known as dreamers. These are individuals that have come into the country under the age of 16 with their parents. They're an undocumented status, but really had no choice in that decision on their own. And then a legalization bill. How that will look, no one knows, but there is an appetite to make sure there is some work done on the individuals that are here in the undocumented status, a treatment of them that's fair for family unification and the economy as a whole, making sure that that part of it is addressed. That's, as you know, a very political hot button issue, and it will, one thing's sure, it will look much different than how the Senate handled that community. Then we have a group of 7 bipartisan members. It used to be 8. We're losing members, which isn't always very good. But they're working on a comprehensive package. They've been working on this package for years, 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and are trying to dive through all those details. The problem with that process is trying to make sure a bipartisan agreement stands and they can stand together. And what's leadership going to do with that? There's a lot of Republicans on the far right of the aisle that don't like the comprehensive approach. They're afraid that things get lost in a big bill like that and feel more comfortable taking it by the piece-by-piece approach. In my opinion, I think the piece-by-piece approach is what is going to go forward in the House. The only way, though, for that to actually get to the floor and get voted on and have an opportunity to have something signed into law is if we are active at the grassroots level in August. August recess, which they go out tomorrow, is their last day. That will make or break this effort, and I can guarantee it. The opposition will be out there. That is assured. We have to make sure that our farmers and ranchers are out there telling the story of why they need this issue, why they need reform, why our labor force and our businesses are dependent on this. If members do not hear that positive message and are only hearing a negative message, it won't happen. And there will not be an opportunity for reform for another decade. This is really an opportunity, and we cannot let politics get in the way of it. It's a hard issue. We understand that it's a hard issue. From the House perspective, this is an opportunity for the House to put together what will be a more conservative sounded bill, probably more more emphasis on border security and enforcement. But there also needs to be a recognition from the agriculture perspective. 70 to 75% of our experienced workers are in undocumented status. For better or for worse, we rely on an immigrant labor force and will continue to rely on an immigrant labor force. If we only have enforcement, which is important in this broad spectrum and making sure we don't face this issue again in 10, 15 years, but if we only focus on that side of things, we will have a terrorizing hit in agriculture. We cannot lose that much experienced workforce in a short-term period. We need that short-term stability. From American Farm Bureau's perspective, we do not get in the debate of amnesty. We do not get in the debate of citizenship. What we advocate for at American Farm Bureau is an earned adjustment of status for experienced workers. These workers would have to show and prove that they have work experience in agriculture, and then they would have a continued commitment to work in agriculture over a period of time. We also are advocating for a new guest worker program, something that's more flexible, that's less bureaucratic, that's more cost-effective and efficient for employers, but does treat workers fairly. We feel that we did that. We accomplished that in the Senate bill. Now, it was a compromise, as things are. Perfect doesn't pass. But from our perspective, it was a great step in the effort for reform and making sure agriculture has access to a legal workforce now and long into the future. As you transition to the House, our message, one, is at a very high level. We need immigration reform. It doesn't need to be comprehensive. It can be piece by piece. Go forth and do your process, but whatever comes out of it has to include a solution for agriculture. That is the only way that this will actually work for us and that we can support any of those individual bills or any other efforts. The solution for agriculture has to be there. And that solution must include those two key components: a way to keep our experienced workforce that's in undocumented status, and a new flexible guest worker program that actually works for us and doesn't require a farmer who needs 5 workers to hire a lawyer to hire that workforce. It needs to be simple. So with that, I think I'm probably close to my time, but I will be floating around some of the committees as well, so we'll be around for questions.
Thank you, Christy. Let's give her a hand.